What's going on, guys? I am working on Steve here, my Mars Rover sim Lite type game, and I am taking my mechanics that I put together in a simple mechanics block out, and I am dropping it into a level where I can just see what that looks like with a little bit of polish on it, see if I'm heading in the right direction. If it tells me a story, first thing I'm going to do is just create a little bit of a constrained zone on the map. The map's not optimized or anything, it's just a map, doesn't really matter. Looking back, I think that now I know how to build an optimized map from the ground up, so I probably would have started there. But anyways, I just created a basic landscape paint with 4 different materials on it. I put a little bit of lighting in there, got the sun into kind of a little spacey kind of feel. I ended up dialing back off of this effect just for the editing portion of this. But here I'm just literally sculpting out. In this video, I just go back and forth between inspiration of placing things in the map, checking the mechanics, playing, and then sculpting, painting, and really just going back and forth as the inspiration came. And I didn't get a lot of specific mechanics or scripting put in place during this kind of session. But I definitely got to see how these mechanics are going to fit, what the constraints are, and if the original design was how simple it was going to be to implement. So right here, my cube guy, I just gave a little light to him to give a little bit of an immersion here, like it's a Rover with a headlight. And I wanted to create the light in a way where it followed the movement of your mouse. But as you can see here, I was twitching like crazy. So I just said, you know what, that wasn't a part of my core scope. Let's just not do that. And here we go again with the emissive properties of these things. And I took a second to like jump in there and be like, okay, let me look at this again. And I couldn't really figure out what was going wrong in the logic. I thought I had it really simple. I said, you know what, let me just get back to the level design and get this level design going. I'll come back to that later. And lo and behold, a couple times I kind of came back to it as I had inspiration. Here I am just looking at the different numbers that are being produced by these these sphere checks that are supposed to be looking for stuff. It's producing these numbers I can look at. I just did not understand why the numbers were not adding up to what I thought they needed to be. But so trying to focus not on that, I go back to level design. I start painting a little bit more details, the rocks and how it feels when you play through here. I put some Niagara effects just to create like little dust particles, and I thought that added just a little bit of immersion, which I thought looked really cool and just gave it a little beyond a block out feel. And then I thought that the light going forward, I opened it up a lot, like the barn door of the light, and I put a spotlight facing down on the character. Then I went back into sculpting, and here I'm really like actually feeling out like the path of the tutorial. And this is the end of the path for the tutorial where you actually like buy your first building. So in this case, I'm just making a lamp. It says established launch base, but I'm thinking the launch base is going to be like a whole like collection of buildings that you have to build to like then move on to the next planet or something like that. But that's not the point. The point is that the mechanic is that you gain resources and then you deposit them to build buildings. And so here I am just kind of walking through the level. Like I said, I love to just iterate through playing it and feeling it. So this has you learning to recharge and how to build things, which I just started with a collision. And then I ended up I went back and forth from a collision to actually like hitting an interact button, and then I went back to collision, and then I got this little guy. This was a tutorial that I did where I had this guy built, and now I'm moving over to a rock. Just I'm throwing in some blender here, so I wanted to have my own rock assets that were low poly with a nice texture on them, and I had a couple variations here. Edited the UV fields, and then I got this one that I like where the UVs kind of stretched over it nicely. And I've learned a lot more about UVs now, so I could probably redo those and update those. But then I upscaled the UV pattern or the tiled pattern, so that it looked more natural like this. And I really just have 2 rocks here, but they're diverse enough in their topography that I'm able to just rotate them and use them for a lot of stuff. And here, like a level is really starting to come together. I added another rock right here. And so this is kind of like, I'm not going to design beyond this, because now I really need to get those mechanics down. And so this is now the place I'm going to live where I test my mechanics.